Welcome to the Shorewood Park Sanitary District September meeting. October meeting, thank you. Thank you, it says right up here October. I can just read that. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to start with roll call, and I'll start on the end down here.
Tina Heidelberger, clerk.
Rich Stork, chairperson.
Dean Fundell, treasurer.
Matt Anderson, board member.
We are short a couple board members tonight, but we have enough to carry on with the meeting. We're going to start off right away with the approval of the minutes.
All right. Last month, Terry was not able to attend, but provided updates to Rich. Flow rates for August were at a low of 9,200 gallons a day with a high of 13,900, averaging out to around 11,000. Monthly maintenance was performed, which is to clean out a lift station, etc. With fall approaching, we will need to start planning for the transfer of the ponds from our primary to our secondary. This is done twice per year, typically spring and fall. This will also be a time to schedule our I&I quarterly testing. Chairman update, plowing update. Nestle did present a draft for a proposal, which was forwarded to the board members. We did request some changes to the contract, such as termination date timelines. Brandon Mel with the board met with Rich to tour the park so he could visualize the areas needed for plowing. We will use the royalties from Midco, approximately $3,000 to $4,000 a year, and once those royalties have been used up, Shorewood Park will be responsible for the plowing, and we will be charged an hourly rate for the time spent completing the plowing. Fielded questions from residents about bidding, which we did obtain multiple bids based on average snowfall, which averaged about $300 per plow. George Folk provided a bid for plowing from an outside source, but this party was not interested in providing service. We will only have 2 authorized board members to authorize salting and sanding, which are Rich and myself. We also need to meet with the township to establish clear expectations of how to meet their needs so they can plow the roads more efficiently, such as grouping mailboxes, only plastic road markers, no parking on the roadside. Joe Rath from League of Minnesota Cities reached out and requested a tour of the ponds and an equipment review as part of review for insurance services. Rich and Terry will accompany the insurance rep on 9/23 to survey all equipment and property. This is done every 7 to 10 years to assess our cost for insurance. Sign update, all votes have been submitted to the website and are not in favor of leasing the sign or the land. We will be rejecting the proposal, and Rich will follow up with Mr. Wood to let him know that we do not accept the proposal. Approval of bills as listed, except for the League of Minnesota City bill. Financial report, current checking was $61,000. We did not have an investment account update. We received letters from the IRS that we've not paid our quarterly taxes. After talking to Althoff, they made the correction in the payment. There was a discussion about whether or not we need to continue services through Althoff or not, and it might be a requirement for auditing purposes. For the first time since the start of the district, we have a budget and are striving to be as transparent as possible with our residents. Paul Sesser questioned if there was a minimum balance that's required in our investment accounts, and Dean was not aware of any minimum balances. Tina presented the idea of investing with a consistent amount each month to raise funds for the district. Now that we're working on our upcoming budget, it might be in the best interest of the residents to look at other ways to increase our savings. We currently do not have any money invested other than receiving interest on the money in our investment account, which is a cash account. It's not one that grows. It's just a cash balance that we have there. It does grow slightly, but not market rates, just so people know. So we could possibly look at purchasing a bond. Old business, expansion update. Dean provided an update. We still have a couple residents that have not responded. There's a push from the grant writers to get moving on this, but we'll need to wait until we have responses from all residents. Rich said that we want those residents in the expansion to be involved in making the decisions on the budget. Road updates. Paul provided an update with George Folk. They're pleased with the work by Premier. Discussion about areas for the next year that we need to address. Question from a resident inquiring about how the decision was made of which areas will be repaired. Rich provided feedback that the residents can use the website to submit an inquiry if they have an area of concern. They can alert the board, and then they will add it to the list of areas to be reviewed. Another question from a resident about the asphalt that was added to the residence in front of his mailbox. Question was addressed by Paul that this was paid for by the resident last year. Dredging update. Sue provided an update that dredging is currently on hold. The DNR has not used this form of dredging to date and has concerns about not being able to see the process firsthand. We could have our deposit put towards future work, but currently it will not be done this fall until the DNR can research further. The cost for the permit will be going up next year. This was confirmed by Sue and Tim. There was much discussion about why the sanitation district is involved in the dredging as well as roads and parks. George Folk raised the point of possibly creating a separate corporation for the roads, channels, and parks, and is having 2 sets of bylaws created for this purpose. Discussion went back and forth about this subject. Budget. We had a meeting set for September 26th to discuss the upcoming budget. We'll need to obtain feedback from the community about hiring out mowing services, as there was a discussion about this, as well as who would hire out for the service. Matt provided the feedback that he would rather see, I put she, I apologize, Matt, would rather see that money go towards repairing roads.
That's incorrect.
That's incorrect, now that I'm reading this back. I'm trying to think of who said that. We're asking residents to provide feedback on the website on this subject. Also questions about posting minutes, which we do email residents who have requested them, but they will always be 1 month behind because we do not release unapproved minutes, so that you will obtain the most current information. We suggest that you view the meeting online at the website. The website information will be added to the bottom of the statements for residents to reference. New business, manhole ditch repair. Bids were provided for repairing the Lakeview Circle and where the ponds discharge into the ditch for a total of $2,300. Paul asked if the ditch would be the responsibility of the county or not. There was discussion about how we're responsible for the area leading up to the ditch, so this repair would fall on Shorewood as it's our discharge pipe, not the ditch. Motion made from Dean and seconded by Paul. I&I letter, there was a letter drafted to residents who have been identified as having I&I when we scoped our system. This letter will go out after the newsletter, as it is mentioned in the newsletter, so we want to make sure that residents are aware of the letters going out to homes affected. Newsletter, there was a motion made to approve it, to send it out with the 10-1 bills. Bylaws, Paul cited in section 5 of our current bylaws that regarding board members being appointed versus elected. Paul submitted his 10 nominations signed by residents as well as Sue Means and Michelle Liefeld. There was much discussion about new bylaws and how elections should be conducted, length of positions, and how the current bylaws are not being followed or even pertain to our special district. It was decided to create a committee to review our bylaws and create a new set of bylaws. We adjourned at 8:50. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the meeting, Matt, about that part with the mowing. Do you recall?
Yes, so at the budget meeting, the board unanimously approved to fund the mowing. The discussion was whether or not we were going to have Rasmussen mow it or open
Okay.
up bids for the neighborhood.
But somebody must have made a comment about,
I would just say a resident, it must have been
Okay.
a female, because that's what you said, she.
Yeah.
So I think I just put in a resident in there. I think
oh, it
that
was
covers-
Margie McCall.
It was Margie, okay,
Now I remember,
all right,
but I'll put a resident.
very good.
All right, sorry about that.
Sir, there's some other corrections or just additions.
Okay,
Just on the portion about plowing,
yep,
update Nestle Township. I just wanted to make it clear that Nestle Township is going to continue to do our plowing, but we have to pay for it, and the balance would be charged on an hourly basis based on the piece of equipment. So they are going to continue to plow and provide that service for us. We just have to pay them.
were they voting on it tonight though?
Yeah, that was going to be voted on it tonight on the draft that Mel made with our corrections on it.
Okay,
So it was just to clear that up. So I'm expecting to see that draft for us to sign here during the month.
okay,
Once that comes, I think we need to execute it as soon as possible, so we're covered for November.
okay,
The portion where the LOMNC and Joe Raff came in,
yep,
Paul also joined us on that survey with
Okay.
Terry and myself.
all right. Anything else?
I think that was it.
Can I get a motion to approve with the proposed changes?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that's our minutes. We're gonna move right into Terry Peterson with LLJ, our wastewater operator and his update on what's been going on the last month. I think it's been, of course, coming into the fall, a busier month for him.
I-4 was correlated with the rain when we got the 6 inches of rain. It was on the 30th actually, end of the month, on that Saturday with all the rain. Ended up being 24,900 gallons a day.
Okay.
So it shot out the high. The low was right on 12,000 for the lowest. I ain't got the average done on it.
So minus that day, we probably fell within our typical average.
Yeah, there was the only thing, it spiked up really high that day.
Yeah.
So it made sense. I was waiting, when I got to it, I knew it was going to hit, so. The ponds, I did the first transfer from the settling pond to the secondary pond. I'll probably test next Monday and start discharging probably next Wednesday.
Okay. And then that'll close it up for,
Yep. I'll see how it goes. If we get another big batch of rain coming here,
yep.
I might have to do a secondary one. We'll see how it goes.
And if that happens, you have to contact MPCA and,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
For
And
that
it's just a
clear.
simple phone call and they say, hey, I'm going to do a secondary discharge. Okay.
Okay. Do you have a question, Michelle?
I do. Is it typical that whenever it rains, most systems, not, that's exclude ours, but in general, the systems always spike like that? So that's typical and common when it rains, that?
All the systems I deal with, yes, there
Okay.
is inflow. And a lot of it is people's sump buckets and stuff. They were dry, they didn't run. Suddenly we got 6 inches. I get actually almost 10 inches up by me.
Okay, I just want to make sure it was okay, there's something wrong with the
No,
fix.
no. And I knew it was going to be coming. Some places are tighter, the older the system, the worse it is usually. And then how many connections into it, stuff like most of the ones that deal with got between 500 and 600 connections where you guys only down 100 or whatever, so.
Right around 100.
Yeah.
There is, I mean, to be truthful too, there are other ways that influence can get within our system. And that is one of the reasons we do scope and try to identify stuff underground within our structure. I would imagine there's some infiltration through manholes, depending on drainage, so on and so forth. So it's typical, I guess. Historically, we've seen that even when I was helping out with HR Green. We did have that 10-inch rain and it really peaked it, or we had that other particular month that was up to 36,000 gallons a day. So that was a
We
really
had a
good
massive runoff in the spring then, so
So, and we did have to do an additional discharge because of that 10-inch at that particular time.
And it's no big deal if we have to do an additional one, we just want to make sure we have the capacity for the winter, to go in the winter, so.
Yeah.
Otherwise, things are good. We did, that repair down in the lower manhole, and it worked out way better than I thought it was going to. And then we haven't with the discharge into the ditch yet, we haven't did that yet, but I'm hoping we get it squeezed in yet. But
Okay.
the clock's ticking now.
Yeah, I can understand that. How about our quarterly? You completed the quarterly test this last month, September?
Yeah.
And all
Everything was good, yeah.
good on that?
Yeah, and I'll get testing in for this last quarter and get the samples for the discharge and stuff, and
And then we can put the pond to bed
put it to bed for the winter.
for the winter?
We've been playing around with the MPCA site because it's not the best site to work with, but for submitting all the paperwork, it's a task to do it.
Yeah.
And some of the forms for the pond readings some go through, some don't, so we're trying to work with them and try to figure out what's going on with it, and their IT people are, we're getting there. We got most of them submitted, so.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Terry and wastewater? I don't think I have any other questions either, so if you want to hang out, that's fine. If we have any other questions for you. I'm going to move on to the chairman update. This month wasn't too crazy. We did meet as a group for the budget meeting and to create the budget. I think we have a spot in here. We're going to update that and kind of let you know, update by Tina. I did have several calls with Terry this month, and we did talk about some of the actions he was providing and some of the services over the month. Then I did have some conversations with the expansion group, Dean, Becky, and Tim Corby. We've shared some emails. We're going to get together via Zoom, I guess, yet this week. and try to set up a meeting with that group to decide what directions and what our path is gonna be here coming. So, you know, the next few months, we're gonna start seeing a little bit more action on that side. That's basically it for the chairman report. It was fairly quiet this month, which was appreciated. So what we'll do is we'll move on to the finance update, and I'll let Tina talk about the budget and where we are, and our attempt to balance the budget.
Perfect. So everyone should have a handout. There is the proposed budget for 2024. So on that sheet, pull it up so I can look at it as I'm talking. So I took out the months. Typically, the budget shows the entire month and the expenses for it, but I just hid those columns so that we could go down the line. This is what we're proposing. We are separating out, just to kind of go down the line, there are changes with employee costs. The employee costs for Terry has moved. It used to be under employee costs because that was provided by someone who was on the board. We've moved that down to operating costs. So it lists out monthly meeting wages. That's an average of if all members are in attendance. Expansion meeting wages, that was just an estimate for what would be needed, as well as special meeting wages that we would meet in the beginning of the year and the end of the year, and then kind of in the middle there somewhere. A change to my wages as well, and then an increase to payroll taxes for state and federal, just to estimate to make sure that we have allocated enough money for that.
Is that just on your wages,
Mhm.
Tina, or is it the board as well?
Just mine, because they found in the bylaws, there were some stipulations with what board members can make in a
Yep.
year, correct?
So that hasn't really been settled yet. We're gonna wait, and we'll make adjustments accordingly based on what we come up with the new bylaws, that proposal. So at this point in time, we're gonna just continue to get paid what we're paid. That's at $50 a meeting for all board members.
Operating costs, I won't go through every line. It's pretty self-explanatory there.
I do have one correction.
Yeah.
For lawn services, there was $4,000 approved for that,
For
for the lawn services.
For operating expenses, or was that for when it's down in the parks?
Oh, that's, I thought that was under.
Yep,
operating
so I kept those separate
Oh, you
because
did,
we
okay.
wanted to have that, they are technically separate budgets because
Okay.
one is coming from the parks. So we did separate that out, but yeah, I have it as 4,000.
Yeah, that's down at the bottom of our parks.
Gotcha.
One question that was raised is, can we take money from our repairs and maintenance budget to be used towards plowing? Or do we not want to do that? Because we're adding an additional 10,000. We have 29,000 allocated here.
Ask that question again, please.
So right now we have 29,000 allocated. We're adding 10,000 as a separate line item for plowing because we're kind of estimating that after that, we included the $3,000 to $4,000 that we have for Midco royalties. But do we want to take money from our repairs and maintenance because that is technically for the roads, or do we want to leave it as is? Because I know we've spent on average around $24,000 is what we spent this past year, was $24,500 in road repairs. And we obviously could have probably spent the full $29,000 if we really wanted to. So I just wanted to pose the question.
So we've had money left over the last 2 years from road maintenance.
Yep.
And like you said, basically, we spent basically right around $20,000. Is there an avenue to shift that, or are you, I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Are you saying basically we should reduce what we're paying for our road maintenance and use that money out of
use
the
that
29?
money? Yeah.
I mean, that's an option. I mean, what do we have to work on? Basically just the historical data that we
Yeah,
have.
because we don't have much, like, we haven't had a budget before, so we
Right.
don't know, other than looking at old checks and old meeting minutes to know for sure.
So what we've been finding out in the bylaws committee is that there's really no restriction on this budget. And honestly, and in all fairness, we don't have to produce a budget.
Okay.
So we can take the money out of whatever
Whatever
pot
fund, okay.
we put it into, honestly.
I mean, the end result is
The
Balance.
same anyway, right?
is trying to balance the budget
Right.
without raising the cost too much.
Mhm.
And we do know that we have an unknown cost coming to us, or a cost that we haven't had in the past.
Yeah.
Problem with it is we really truly don't know what that cost is gonna be for snow plowing, right? It's a gambit. We can just basically go off the average.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could try it and make the adjustment later on.
Yeah,
I mean, in the future years.
and every year's gonna be different too. You
Every
know,
year's
this
gonna be
past
different.
year was not typical for,
Could you group the maintenance and the plowing together?
Together,
And if you spent less on plowing in a good winter, you've got more money you could put into the road maintenance?
I mean, that's a good solution.
or do we earmark money if we have money left over for a bigger project? Because we know that there's gonna be, you know, maybe we say, okay, well, we had, you know, $5,000 left, we're just gonna let that sit and roll it to the next year and work that into our budget for the next year to accommodate maybe some additional expenses, or, you know, like I said, a bigger project that we wanna do.
Well, and we also talked about making future investments, like
Yeah.
in the stock market, not just the
Mhm.
money account.
Yeah,
So that would be an option too. I think it's pretty fluid. I think that, you know, that we have an itemized list of all the things that this district has to pay for. And where we have, you know, wins, we can always take that extra money and put it into something else.
At the end of the year.
At the end of the year.
Michelle, you had a question?
This, I was kind of thinking along the same things, and that, I mean, this is strictly a budget, it's what we think each of the items, what we think that, realistically, what we think we might be spending each year on each of these items.
Right.
What we actually spend may be completely different. Maybe we'll have a bunch of favorability, unfavorability. Like you said, we don't have much history, so we're doing our best job at trying to estimate where our realistic budget will be for each of these items. And at the end of the day, if we do spend less, it's not, I'm assuming you guys don't view the budget as an open checkbook. Because you have something in paper, you don't plan on necessarily spending that.
No.
It's just, this is your best stab at a realistic budget right now, what we think it'll cost, because that helps us plan what we think the association will, the sanitation dues will be, well, and roads dues will be to our residents, correct?
Correct.
And that was the purpose of doing
Yep.
so, right?
Yep.
So we can either, you know, save it, or bank it if we don't use it all, or maybe it helps to cover an overrun somewhere else. And it may be under a different line item, but it's strictly just a stake in the sand, where we think right now, realistically, our dollars will be spent. So,
So, and then as you can see, so the total proposed expenses are $111,000. Based on our current revenue of what we charge our residents, there's a shortfall. So we had proposed increasing the monthly dues, which we obviously don't want to do, but we know that realistically we have to, and also they haven't been done in quite a few years. If we increase the fees from $80 a month to $100 a month, so that'd be an increase of $10 on each, the road and the sewer fees. I figured out, because there are some residents that pay multiple sewer fees or multiple road fees. Some people just pay a road fee depending upon what their situation is. So after I calculated that, if we agree to that proposed increase, it would bring our revenue to $114,756. So we wouldn't be in the red anymore. So that's something that we need to decide if we're going to do that or not. But again, we don't have to have a decision made, as Matt's saying. Maybe we don't even have to have, we're not required to have a budget, but according to our current bylaws, we're supposed to.
Well, I think we
We'll
need.
talk about that later.
Okay, okay.
My point of view is I think we need a budget. We should have a budget.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, you need to understand where the money is going. I think it's just obvious to make these decisions, I guess. Otherwise, we're just taking a stab in the dark.
Yeah, because we don't want to get in a situation where, like, without increasing our fees, where all of a sudden we're $20,000 in the hole.
the only suggestion I have is if we want to propose the increase we have on the dues, that we have a balanced budget. have our expenses equal our revenue. And right now you have a surplus coming in. You have more revenue than we anticipate our expenses to be. So maybe you have an investment line on, and this is how much you want to save, so that the two balance.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, that was gonna be my question too. It looks like we have a surplus of almost 5,000 or what?
Right.
Almost $4,000, right? $3,000.
Or you don't raise the dues as much as you need to. It should be a balance, but whichever way you want to handle it, correct?
I really feel strongly though that we should, not as the clerk, but as a resident of Shorewood, I would like to see us investing some money for the future because we have that cash fund that's available to us, but it's really not growing. I mean, if you look at meeting minutes from past, it's basically up, or down within $20. So it's not like we're seeing that money grow. So let our money work for us a little bit more and purchase a bond. This is the perfect time to do it. I think that's something that we should consider, even if it's not the full amount or, but at least investing something. Or taking some of that money from our cash account right now that we have there
And invest in that.
and investing that money instead. Maybe not including it in the budget, but taking some of that and reinvesting it. I reached out to Evan Pinkston. He's the investment guy for Unity Bank. And I just posed the question to him, and like, what would we need to, and he's like, yeah. He said, we can sit down, and he goes, you do have limitations because you're a special district of what you can invest your money in. But he said there's definitely options. So if that's something that we want to look at, we could certainly do that. And that's what his recommendation was not necessarily allocating a line item for a monthly investment, but taking a larger sum of cash and investing that instead.
Is there currently a bond that we have right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's not a bond, it's,
It's like a bond, but it's a bond fund, I'm not positive
And
exactly.
it's getting like 2.5.
2.75, I think, is the interest we have right now.
And it matures when?
2027.
Okay.
You're stuck with that for a few more years.
yeah.
And is there, what's the fee if you pull it?
I'm also going to see either.
Well, I'm just saying,
I mean,
big enough number, you can get 7%.
So we have, so that for bonds right now, it's definitely, there's other options, but we have a cash value account as well that's separate
Right,
from the
that's
bond.
close to 20,000, somewhere in that
Yeah.
range, so.
And that's where it hovers. Now, do you want to invest that? And we've always saved that in case, we've only had to pull out of that one time since I've been here.
Okay.
When we came to we didn't have money to pay off the road stuff.
Well, you could do a short-term bond, and typically with bonds, I think if you do have to cash out early, you just lose the interest that you would have earned on it. So you're not losing anything.
I guess that's not gonna change. I think maybe we should circle back to the regular question of the budget, because we really got sidetracked on what we want to do with this budget and what the total is. What are our dues gonna go up?
So I also did make a change. So Altops has lowered their rate for us because they're not doing as much for us anymore.
Okay.
So we were paying $180 a month, we're paying $100 a month now.
And that was that email that you.
Yep, that I sent.
Okay.
But they hadn't notified us otherwise. It was just, I'm like, why is it only $100? So, but I think that's because they're not doing, she probably knows because we've been questioning a little bit too. I
Yeah.
think that there's been more questions coming to them,
Well, that's good.
so.
Just to comment on the roads, in 2018, we had two bids. One was about 22,000 and one was 24,000. I don't remember if we used Premier in 2018 or not. Rich, do you remember? Was that maybe the first year we switched to them?
I can't remember. Well, what year was it? It was 44,000. I mean, that was a big
Right, that
year.
was the first year you and I went out.
And that was because it was missed the year prior because of the expansion money that sucked all our money out.
Right.
So, and that was the same year that we had to pull out of our cash because we missed a whole year of road repairs. So we were making up for a year also.
So it looks like, Tina, your number about 24,000 a year for roads is approximately right.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for a while.
Well, I don't have a problem. I mean, if we reduce that to 25, down to 24,000 and we change that plowing budget to $5,000, I don't know how that's going to adjust for our revenue. I'm all for trying to keep the amount of money that we're gonna raise on the dues down if we can, right? I mean, we know that we have to raise it a little bit. $20 seems a little steep to me, personally. So if we could reduce that, I think I would be more happy personally about that. And I think we could live with this because we do have a buffer to take care of it. And we need to collect that historic data too. So we don't know where plowing is going to get us. I'm going to take last year out and just throw it out. Everybody says that it was 100 inches compared to 50 inches, which is our average. And the amount of money typically, doing all the math, basically was double. So, I mean, do we want to entertain that option to try to bring that amount down a little bit?
We talked about this at the budget meeting. And the question is, do we know? And we don't know.
Yep.
We don't want to get stuck with our
pants down.
Exactly. And nothing says that this initial raise in 2024 is going to be that way in 2025. We can always take it back down.
Yeah, we could. That's a good point.
And we'd be talking about, what, a $5 reduction in the fees?
Yeah.
So $60 per resident. I don't know, it seems to me that up until now, you know, we've been, you know, scraping the bottom of the barrel. And, you know, and the idea that these dues are, you know, the raising of the dues is something that's out of right field. Our dues have been artificially low for years. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know how they got it all done. Well, I do know how they got it all done. They didn't do any maintenance to our neighborhood. There was no effort into figuring out, you know, how our 50-year-old pipes are looking underground. There was a pump on the Shorewood Circle pump house that had been acting at 200% that we had replaced, and now that's reduced our electric bill, and now that's replaced, so we're not pumping the same water again and again. There's been a lot of things that have been overlooked and swept under the rug, and it's almost a miracle that we've been able to fix all these things and come up almost at budget this year. And as someone who lives here and wants to have somewhat of a safety net, I think it's important that we have these investments and have this rainy day fund, and you know, we just had the water fail in the upper circle, and that's one of these things that can happen to the sewer as well, and $20,000 isn't necessarily going to cover that. And do we want to cash in that fund that we have of $200,000? And I would like to just see that through, unless we can, you know, factually figure out that if we take it out and put it into something else, that we're going to make a gain on that. But all of that said and fine and done, you know, that's tomorrow. But today, you know, the board unanimously approved the budget that you have in front of you, you know, 2 weeks ago, and I think that we should just move forward as planned. And that's just the way I feel about it.
I do like Rich's idea that, to me, a budget should be realistic, but if we do want to, you know, I mean, as far as if plowing, really truly think that last year was an anomaly, more realistic, we think we'll probably spend $5,000. I agree, then let's make that $5,000, and the roads maintenance repair, make it the $25K. If that's what we think we're going to be spending, make it realistic. But to Matt's point, if we want monies to be putting into our savings account, or if we feel we want to increase, or we foresee repairs and maintenance coming of $10,000, whatever that amount will be, that should be a separate line item. I think it should be realistic, but if we want to plan for what Matt is suggesting, then make another line item for that instead, rather than adding cushion to others throughout the budget.
So basically,
Emergency funds,
basically you name it as an emergency fund.
Right.
which it's smart to have an emergency fund, because if you don't have one, you're in big trouble.
We increased our, the pump station category that we have there for repairs, maintenance, and updates. We did increase that. For 2023, we had $5,000 proposed for that. So we had talked about increasing it to $15,000, and we negotiated down to $12,500. Because this past year, just so far to date, we've already spent $7,528. So we're over budget on that for 2023. So that was our kind of rationale, knowing when we've talked to Terry, you've talked about some of the technologies that we have are a bit outdated, knowing that we probably should be replacing some of those things. But again, we don't know if something went wrong, you just,
And it is a guessing game. It's based off the best available information that we have.
Well, didn't Nestle Township say to you plowing was, that they spent 20,000 on it, but then at their meeting, it was 15,000?
Yeah.
So who really knows what they spent on it?
And the other piece on that is,
Kind of covering.
we have no jurisdiction over that $3,000 to $4,000 from the cable company.
No, we don't, that's a guess.
So now that their contract is over with us, and we have this new contract, there's nothing that says that they have to spend that money on us. They could pull it, 5 days ago. We could be looking into the abyss right now as far as our plowing goes, and have to come up with that extra $3,000 or $4,000.
And I think that's what the 10,000 was. I think originally, because I went to the budget meeting, I think that line item was 7,000 originally. But then we increased it by 3, thinking, the Midco money, royalties isn't guaranteed, so we increased it by the 10, thinking we likely won't get it, or that was the thought process behind making it 10, I think, is why it was done.
Yeah,
I believe you're right.
yeah.
We did
that's
have lots of
correct.
conversations about this. So basically, based on this budget, we will raise the fees 10 for the road and 10 for the sewer. And that'll get us up to that surplus over a little bit. I guess, like I said, I think we've hashed this out a couple times, and we're just tossing out some different ideas again and kind of hashing over it again. I guess we're at the point to look for a motion to accept this budget based on, the proposed increase.
I first motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? I guess it passed, carries.
So we can still make changes to this though, so like Michelle had presented, to balance it out to 0. So we can make, with that overage that we have, we can make adjustments to our pump station. We can make adjustments with parks, with mowing, to make sure that we do have a balanced budget. So that's
An
something-
emergency fund. or-
Yeah.
Add one more
Yeah.
line.
Add one more line and put it in
I would
there.
make it balanced, because you're gonna get questions, I
Yeah.
think, from residents, so.
Yeah.
So we'll add that line item,
Okay.
and the surplus will be emergency fund.
Can I throw a little spiel on this, listening to all this? Because I've seen a lot of this going on.
Yep.
I think you've been talking of my sewer district and stuff. It's Cross Lake and Giggle.
Carrie has it.
If you want a bigger point, yeah,
I know
she's been a
somebody's been
research.
talking. Anyhow, to make a long story short, Cross Lake 5 years ago was $40,000 in debt. And LJJ they weren't paying us enough, we were just covering the costs for stuff to keep them going. They went to the bank in Pine City and got a loan for operating costs. They never increased their rates for years and years because they had basically Hitler running the place and would not increase their rates. Well, it drove that whole sewer system that was given to them into the ground with no repairs enough there, just barely putting Band-Aids on us. And 5 years later, they've got $250,000 in the bank, and they've raised their rates. They're at $55 a month now, is what they pay for sewer up there. But they were at 20 for a long time, $25 a month, and it killed them. They ate up every bit of money they had to keep that thing going for no reason.
That's fiscally irresponsible.
Irresponsible. And $55 a month seemed like a lot for a sewer, but I mean, you don't have to worry about it. You flush your toilet, just take care of it, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
The keg on the other side, which is about the same size, same, put in everything, there's $2 million in the bank there. And that they did everything, did increases over the years and stuff, and just to keep up, they're at $35 a month down, they're going to $45 after the first of 2024, but it's just, there's the two identical situations, no management, no increase or nothing over there, put them in a hole, almost sunk them, and the other one was, they come out small with the roads. And they're the same systems, they both have 17 lift stations around the lake, almost the same footage in their ground, and that's the difference. So don't ever, I know it's not an easy thing to swallow as an increase, but it's going to save you in the long run. And actually the sewer district up across Lake now has put money in the CDs. They've got, I think, right around 100,000 CDs. Because you can put them in it. You can put $100,000 or $50,000 into a 3-month CD at 5.25% interest right now, which that bond, you throw that out the window. I mean, might as well make some money if you got it.
Right.
I couldn't agree more.
That's just my spiel of the way. I see so much of this stuff all over the place. And then being on the township board too, I see it too, up there that I see all sides of this. So it's never an easy pill to swallow as an increase, but in the long run, it's gonna help you.
I'm all for an increase because I believe in saving for the future. So, yeah, let's not just pay for the current. I like the emergency fund and whatever's extra gets put into CD, but whatever.
Whatever investment, but you want to leave it to,
I
so
agree.
the next board members or people that move in and stuff, they get, oh, look, they've got a good looking system, they've taken care of it, they did what they needed to do to keep it going, and you want that to carry on, you don't want to say, well, I'm out of here in 5 years, see you later, I don't want to,
Yeah, we definitely don't want to hand the board off to somebody else the way that the board was handed off to us.
That's what basically happened across Lake, same thing. Here, you guys deal with it. So that's my spiel on it.
And just so residents, we want them to know too, that when we looked at this budget, we were trying to be very careful about estimating and accommodating for increases that we're seeing with postage rates and the sensiphone, which is the monitoring, the call or the line that we use to report our flow rates and if something's wrong, that goes up every year. So there's all these increases that we're seeing as well, and wanting to make sure that we're, forecasting the correct amount for
Electricity, insurance,
those.
I mean, it all just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing, and where
Well,
it ends, nobody knows.
And now that we just have them come out and view our system, we pretty much, you can guess that the insurance, it's like when the auditor comes around and looks at your, your property, you know that your taxes are probably gonna go up, so.
And you made a comment about the panel, it's getting old. It is getting old. It's a good system. Believe it or not, we've gone through it pretty good, and the bones are there for a good system. But a new panel is going to be about $30,000.
I would love to do a reserve analysis at some point for the assets that we currently have. What is the life remaining on that, so that we know how much we have to have invested in order to, when things are going to need to be replaced, that we have enough there. And I don't know if we've ever done that, but I think that'd be a very prudent and wise thing to do.
Sounds like another project coming up for the next year or something.
Yeah.
Once we tackle.
And it's a good idea. We just, for Kegma did I hate to be taking all your time, but I do have some information. The Kegma just did a rate study to see what our SAC charges are, because right now, Kegma charges $8,400 for a sewer access charge, so if somebody building a house, that's what it is, the clean system. And we just did a study through MSA, which is an engineering firm, and it was $22,000 to do a study on it. But it told us in all reality, we should be charging $10,250 something like that for it, instead of the $8,400. We decided to keep it at what it is, because the money's there, the funds are there for it. So, and Cross Lake is at $7,400, going to $76 next year.
Okay. I have one question, another question for you, Terry. We had a one line item here for the MPCA licensing, and we really only plugged $500 in there. Is that like any updates or any things that have to happen?
I don't think nothing's changed. I don't think it's out of line.
Okay. All we do know is that our current license expired a long time and it's hung up with the expansion.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Just keep talking expansion, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. They won't change anything until that's done. All right, I guess we basically decided that we're going to stick with the budget. We'll create another one line item for that surplus.
Okay.
And we can move on.
Current checking account balance is $47,209.77. That was because they cashed the check for our road repairs, so we saw a decrease there. And then next item is investment fund updates from Dean.
And I have not gotten an updated statement, so I'm thinking it might be just because we're earlier in the month than normal, and no mail yesterday. I'm going to wait a few days, and if I don't hear anything from them, because I assume there's been a statement at the end of the quarter. So if I don't hear anything this week, I will call him and find out why we're going to have any statement, because we haven't for the last couple of months.
Yep, I think we'll have to look into that for 15. Thanks.
Presentation of the bills. I have bills that I will hand down here. First one, East Central Energy, $152.57. Rasmussen this month was $322.13. Sensiphone, which I had mentioned earlier, is the company that we use for like a monitoring system, is that correct, how I'm explaining it?
Yep.
I don't have the bill here. I didn't print it. Shoot, sorry about that. But that was $299.40.
And that's a yearly, that's per
That's
year.
yearly, yep. And then LJJ wastewater, $1,700. League of Minnesota Cities, those are our membership dues. We wanted to hold off. We decided last month on paying those until we could look into things a little bit more with the bylaws, but
I think we need to stay status quo until we solidify
no,
that.
one way or the other, yep.
Yep.
And then I'm asking for a reimbursement for copy paper of $15.57. So I'll pass that down to you, Rich. Any questions, comments?
Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion to pay the bills.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Plowing update, Rich.
The plowing update. Plowing update is we're expecting, other than a draft, an agreement with Nesso Township to provide plowing with us at an hourly basis for this year. I think it was a yearly contract. And once we get that, we'll get that out and we'll sign and make sure that we're covered for the year. So we talked about how we're going to monitor that a little bit, and we'll just have to pay attention to when the plows come in and try to regulate that a little bit. But I will be reaching out. I'll see how that goes. I'll reach out to some people, but they do want to do kind of a survey. We want to kind of get some expectations set up. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to handle that yet, but I'll probably reach out to trouble areas and those residents for their help on those expectations. And we'll try to get some information out to the residents on how that's going to go. Keep you updated as much as we can. What we do know that is any questioning on the plowing or any changes or any concerns do have to come through us and not directly to Nesso Township. Everything will be filtered through us.
So Rich, question on that, with the plowing update, in that contract, are they gonna talk about what kind of markings we need to have beside the road for, the plows and all that kind of stuff?
Well, they do not. They're basically, I think, whatever we do to set up the expectation is gonna limit the amount of time or increase the amount of time that they're in here plowing, okay? So we have the ability with these expectations and meet with these people because they had no expectations before. They were just doing what they wanted to do, and their marching orders were get in, get out, down and dirty, and get the heck out of there, all right? That's what it was. Now that they realize that we're gonna pay them, they're gonna do what, they're gonna take a little bit of time to do it right, but we have to let them know where they can put the snow and what we're looking, and I think this is that opportunity. So, it's either gonna be by submission by the website or somebody contact us, or I'm gonna contact some people when we do this survey, and we'll talk about the trouble areas, because we know where they are, right? So we'll have to try to get some other people involved with that decision. But yes, we will have to do some markings. We will have to, ask people to keep stuff away from the road. The more we do, the less money it's gonna cost us. That's the bottom line. I think that is the way that we're gonna have to approach it. And we do want to control it the best we can. Any other questions on the plowing? I guess there's more information to follow on that. It's a new world for us, so we'll have to see how it goes. Expansion update. Dean and I have had some conversations with Becky and with Tim Corby. We're going to try to get together, like I said, this week yet via Zoom and just talk about strategies of how to get the group together and to get them involved and kind of lay out where we are with the budgets and what the next steps are going to be. So, and how we move forward. The more they put into it, the less it's going to cost them, basically. Same thing. The more responsibilities they take, the less we have to do, and ultimately we'll be charging them for anything that we have to do if it's going to take our time. So we'll see how that meeting goes.
Yeah, basically, we just need a roadmap of where we're going and how to approach it, because we don't know. We've been in this before, so.
Well, there is some information that we've gained out of the bylaw committee and the communications they've had with other people. We have some telephone numbers that we can call, and we'll I'll bring that information to that meeting, or we'll run it by Dean and so on and so forth, or Tim. New business, 2024 budget review approval, I think we took care of that. All right, the bylaws, that's still a work in process. Do you want to give us any updates? I've heard bits and pieces, I'm not part of that committee, but I'm hearing some really great things, and we're getting a little bit more information on the direction that we should be working on and the directions that we should be going, correct?
Correct. We're currently on Article 2, so we have quite a ways to go. But thanks to Carrie Fairclough, there's been a lot of research done, and we've had a lot of great discussion. Even though we haven't actually done the bylaw rewriting, a lot of that, we've had a lot of discussions on how we want to see this neighborhood board, neighborhood district move forward, and how we can make it functional, and not, you know, and I guess with that in mind, I'd like to propose that we expunge the bylaws that we are currently following, which are from 1988, and it's as long as a book, and none of the bylaws are enforceable by a current Minnesota statute. There is a current Minnesota statute in 2020. 2022? Yeah. 2022, that we should be following anyway.
So basically, what you're telling me is the bylaws that we have are so old, they're really null and void anyway.
Correct.
Can we work with no bylaws between now and the time that we come up with any bylaws, or do we just keep them in place as a placeholder? Or there's no reason for that?
There's no reason for the placeholder, because the bylaws from '88, they have been rewritten so many times since then that I would say less than half of the statutes have expired, and they're no longer enforceable. And we don't have to follow them. So it wouldn't do us any good to restrict ourselves in that manner.
All right, well, then I second that motion.
I would just suggest that we post the link to the 22 Minnesota state statutes for
Absolutely.
sanitation districts on our website. So interested people, it's publicly viewed.
Absolutely.
Okay. So your proposal is basically to remove the old bylaws,
Yep, from '88.
and basically as a sanitary district, we should be following the Minnesota state statutes based on certain articles which you're going through.
Which are current.
And we will post those articles on the website right now, and we'll follow those as close as we can.
Correct.
Okay, and that's basically your proposal at this particular time?
Correct, on first motion.
Okay. Dean,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna move on to electronic payment and information on the electronic payment option.
So we are going to have available for our residents starting next month. I will put together kind of a cheat sheet, and I'll have Matt post it also on the website, information about it, but residents can make payments through Stripe. They would be able to pay a whole year at a time if they wanted to. So I'll kind of go through how to do that in the handout to show them. I'll do some print screens and add that in there. But basically, the resident has to select. It's like a menu item. So you're selecting that you're doing 1 month of your sanitation fee, your sewer fee, and 1 month of road fees. And then, so residents will have to know what they're currently being billed so they can, because it doesn't give me the option of doing just a flat $80 fee for everyone. And because some residents pay 2 road fees or 2 sewer fees, we want to make sure that they have the option of adjusting that amount. So if you wanted to pay a whole year at a time or 6 months at a time, you would just change that quantity to reflect that. So it would bill you for 6 months or 6 of the $53 fee and 6 of the $27 fee. Michelle?
Do we want to maybe consider holding off until January, since you guys are proposing an increase in dues and the rates are going to change? Because if someone goes out and pays 12 months of fees.
That's true.
You know what I
That's a good
mean?
point.
They would not be paying the correct dues that you guys are going to implement January forward. So
We can just limit their ability to do that until
Okay.
January, so they can
Okay.
only pay for 1 month up until January.
Okay,
I think it's important that we set it up and get it going.
Yeah.
And then the next couple months, people will get used to it, and then they can make that big jump if they want to.
yeah.
So you can,
Would be nice to start it as soon as possible.
and you can adjust those parameters based on how things are going on, based on our account to account, right?
We have complete control of the table of contents of payment possibilities.
Well, and we need to notify residents as soon as possible about the change.
Yep.
Because there are a lot of residents who pay a year at a time. So in December, they're gonna be mailing that check for their next year. So we wanna make sure that they're aware of that before they're having to send in another payment,
So
so.
this sounds like it could have potential for confusion for people, where they might pay the sewer part and not the road part? Like, are you gonna have to hunt things?
I don't know yet. This is totally new to me, so the only practice that I've had is myself of submitting a bill and paying it. And obviously, I know how much I pay, and it, with anything new, there's gonna be a learning curve to it. I hope that it's smooth.
Do you want to do a beta test with more than, do we want to pick like a beta test to see how it goes with some volunteers? Would that be probably a better way to approach it?
Well, I don't know how it's gonna show up, because the money will be deposited into our checking account. So I don't know what that's gonna look like yet. So when someone makes a payment, I need to be able to account for it and check it off as I'm applying payments then, because I still have to apply it in QuickBooks.
I think it's either in the register will be the person's name, or you'll be sent a PDF or
An
some
email.
type of file
Yep,
to the email that you link to that
Yep.
payment system.
yep,
So, because they have to enter all their information in that.
Correct.
They can't just pay, they have to submit their
Yeah.
name, address, yada, yada.
yep.
And to your point, Carrie, there's going to be growing pains. If this isn't going to be, I mean, I'm fully anticipating there are going to be hiccups, but it's going to be well worth it in the long run. And not everybody's going to do this. It's not like we have 99 people to do this with, maybe half. If we had half, and let's say we had 2 or 3 issues, that'd be a win-win.
Hey, we don't know unless we try.
Exactly.
And a weekly fee then?
There's a very small nominal fee. It's not very much. It's like 1% or something.
And how many properties are there? Is it?
There's approximately 100. I would have to count exactly. I don't know.
100 is probably the closest, 98 or 100 depending, right? And some people own a couple lots, and some people have sewer and own a few lots. Some people have, there's not a lot. Everybody's pretty consistent to 1 lot, which is a road fee, and there's only a few outside.
I do like the notification as soon as possible as far as the dues increase, so people are aware come January 1st, there will be a change.
Yep. Yeah, we'll have to get that out there for sure. And I don't know if we do that through the website or website plus a mailer.
So at the budget meeting, we also proposed late fee changes.
Yes.
I think we should address those tonight as well.
Okay. So we had talked about increasing, so right now it's 1.5%, which does not, that's not really a penalty. So if you have people that are not paying it all year long, or they're not paying for 6 months at a time, it's obviously, there's no,
Repercussions?
yeah, so we turn over approximately 7 to 10 residents a year to the auditor to have them assessed on their taxes. So, and I don't remember who it might have been you, Carrie, that talked about that, what some of the other sanitation
I got some
districts do.
information from Cross Lake,
Yeah,
but then I got contrary information from Moose Lake.
okay,
And I believe their late fee, I can check when I get home, I want to think it was like 6 or 6.5%
mhm,
currently. And their executive director would like to see it increase. And their attorney that drafted their bylaws, I think indicated there's perhaps an 8% cap on things. That was kind of that link I sent you, Tina.
Mhm.
If you got it, I'm sure you wondered, what's this supposed to mean? Because I don't know what it's supposed to mean. So I
Yeah.
passed that on to you with some state statutes on late fees for utilities and rent and that type of thing, so.
So it sounds like we would be just guessing at it right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that we do definitely need to increase
I
our
think
late
you
fee.
could comfortably go up to what Moose Lake is for sure. And I can verify that when I get home.
6.5.
Six, I want to think 6.5.
Why don't we say 5% now, so that we can let people know?
Yep.
Because if we wait till next month, then we're only gonna have a month to notify people.
Yep.
Do I hear a proposal for the late fee to raise it to 5%?
No,
First,
to go back to this though, you had where if it was sent to be assessed, they paid like a fee, correct?
That's what Cross Lake was doing.
we'll take a vote on that too. I think we should
Okay.
separate the two.
Okay,
The legalities of that,
yeah.
I don't know. But having that wording there, he indicated that people were coming to pay their bills.
I think that's the biggest thing. So, you know, that threat is out there technically of like, hey, if you don't, because the idea was that if you don't pay your bill and it has to be assessed on your taxes, the first year would be a $250 fee that you pay on top of your late fee. And then if you do it the second year in a row, it jumps to $500, let's say.
That's what they were, I believe.
So,
But if it's not legal, you probably don't want to spell out that consequence.
Yeah.
We can't ever follow through on it, is what, yeah. I think that's what Carrie's saying, well, legally, I don't know if they could follow through or should have been following through, I think, is what she's implying maybe.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so sorry.
Nope, so we got a first and a second. Do we hear an aye on the 5%?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, who made the first? Was it Rich or you, Matt?
I did.
Okay. And then Rich. Oh, Dean? Okay, sorry. All right.
And as far as the extra fees on, if it goes into taxes, we'll address that later.
Okay.
So that's electronic payment. All right, we're gonna move on to removal of meeting minutes during the meeting. Who wants to take that?
So I had made a proposal that instead of taking the time that we do where I read the minutes back of the month, that we forgo that. Anybody here present would get a copy that they can look at. But the minutes are sent to the board members once they're approved right away, and then the new minutes, usually within a week, I have them out to a week and a half. Whenever I can double check them to what Matt has on the website, I usually listen back to make sure I'm not missing anything. So my proposal was to eliminate that process just to help save time for people. So just wanted to present that as an option.
It would also be timely information to those that, in addition to, I know they can watch the video, but those sometimes can get long.
Yep.
They had access then, if we're posting the minutes always on the website as well, more timely access to
Yeah.
last minutes as well.
Yeah.
If they're approved, because you could throw them out there as soon as they're approved then.
So Tina, instead of completely removing the minutes, could we have a question on the minutes section?
So we'll still have to have a
Approval.
approval of them.
Oh,
So, yeah.
Okay, so that would change it.
No.
So that would
We just won't
change.
read them.
Right.
Exactly, we're just not gonna go through the process of reading them
So
all
basically,
out.
we'll treat it like the Rush Lake Association.
Right, that's
We'll say,
exactly
is there any questions on the minutes or changes that need to be happened to the minutes? You have had a chance to read them, and if there's no questions or answers or changes, we basically approve the minutes. So, it's just a time saver.
Well, could you take it one step further though? And if you get approval, the board is what approves the minutes.
Right.
If they approve it, I mean, after you shoot it to them, then you guys approve that,
We're
things
not
are
approving
just-
it till the next, they are sent out once they're approved, those are, but they're not approved though till the following month
But
though.
could they be approved in between? Could we eliminate that step?
It's always done at the next meeting.
But does it need to be, is what I'm suggesting.
That's
That's my question.
Say maybe, but I just don't, that's what Tom should have did it that way, so I just assume that's the right way to do it.
That's how all we're done is you approve them at the next meeting. And I die if I have to listen to minutes for all of our meetings because some of them are hours and hours and hours
Yeah.
long. I just, exactly what Rich said, you make a motion to approve the minutes, any additions, corrections.
Everybody
Keep
gets a
going.
copy, if you want to
Yeah.
read them, read them.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah,
posted.
we're gonna read them in advance.
Sounds logical.
This does.
All in favor for that proposal?
We got a first and second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to, basically, we're gonna eliminate the reading of the minutes and we'll, I don't even, the best way to word that is,
The reading aloud of the minutes.
yeah, we'll basically remove the reading they allow of the minutes, and we'll make changes and corrections and move on to the approval.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
I'd also like to make a proposal that moving forward, we open up a question and answer session at the end of our meetings for those in attendance to ask questions about the meeting that just happened. I feel that it would save time if we were able to just run through our business, old and new, and then at the end of the meeting, folks in attendance can take notes of the meeting and write down their questions, and then all the questions and answers can be done at the end of the meeting.
Well, would that cause a problem? You know, I thought we had pretty good flow tonight. If we're on a basic subject, do we want to ask a question and answer at that particular time? Or I'm just looking for a little bit more clarification on the question and answer part of it.
I guess I'm open to that, and I really don't have like a structure in place, but initially I just thought that we go through all of our business, you know, all the updates, the finance, the approval of the bills, the old business, the new business. And at the end of the new business, then we would have a question and answer for all subjects.
Outside of what we're
Less
talking
less
about.
interruption during.
Less
Yeah,
interruption
yeah,
during.
I
So,
totally get
but
that.
would you move all the approvals of things to the end
That's
also?
Right,
We
that's
could
the
do that as
only-
well.
That's the only,
Because
like,
that would be the only concern
Yeah.
I would see is,
Yeah.
if somebody came back with a question and said, oh, that's a good point, we can't do this, then you have to take that motion
Renege
away.
and- Yep. So we could save all approvals to the end.
Or perhaps just if something seems to be getting off track,
right, just
you
redirect.
can just move that to the end of the meeting. You know, these brief interchanges might make sense in the flow of the meeting,
Right.
but occasionally, yeah, there's been points where people are bringing something up and it takes you way off track of the business.
Yeah, it really does. And to be
Yeah.
fair to everybody, I feel that there needs to be a system in place.
Yeah.
Well, I think, why don't we, I like the idea. I think we put it at the end. And if we feel that a question is outside of the particular item that we're talking about, what we'll do is we'll say we're going to move that towards the end, so save that for the question and answers. I think maybe that would be the place. That'll give us a spot to limit the questions and to limit the.
Instead of doing that, why don't we have a leeway for board members to open up questions after segments?
Okay.
I don't think there should ever be a free-for-all during the meeting.
I understand exactly what you're trying to do, because we've seen these meetings get way out of hand.
Just a helpful hint is we leave it right for the end of our meetings that we have for the township and stuff. Public
Yeah.
comment, you have 5 minutes to talk, what would you want to talk about?
I was also going to bring up a time on it. What do we want to?
Yeah, it would be a 5-minute limit.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
I think we should do it that way. I think we should have a question and answer at the end. But if board members want to ask attendees for their opinion for certain items right away during the topic of discussion, they
Yeah, that-
can do this.
And that's basically how we've been running these right now, right?
Kind of.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a
very good.
All right, then I first the motion.
Okay.
I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I'm going to address one more thing on our agenda, and basically I'm just going to address it, and I think then we can move on from it, because it really has nothing to do with, it's an outside issue that's going on outside the Shorewood Park with some residents, and it does have to do with the Shorewood Park Sanitary District, and I just want to kind of just address the issue. There's been a survey out there by a couple people looking for some different entities within the Shorewood Sanitary Park. And I just want to address it by saying any intended message that the Shorewood Park Board is burdened or overwhelmed is completely inaccurate. The board has not requested the creation of any additional organizations. The board members and the volunteers have worked hard together to serve its community after after, what's gone on in the past with the original chairperson and operator. So basically what I'm saying is, we didn't ask this survey and so on and so forth to go on.
We also did not supply the emails to those individuals to email our residents. So if those members did not go door to door asking for permission for those email addresses, we unfortunately have to deny any involvement in those email addresses being given to those folks.
One of the big questions was, they want to separate the roads and the lighting. I just want to make it clear that the roads are private roads, and it's kind of unique, but those roads are part of the sanitary district. We have to maintain those roads. We have to keep them clear and updated to basically maintain the infrastructure of the sanitary district itself. So with that being said, that is part of the Shorewood Park Sanitary District, and that still needs to be maintained by this board. And that would include the lighting also. So that's kind of where we stand. We're going to continue to conduct business. If you have any other questions about what we're doing, you can always submit those questions to us or come to a board meeting. And that's basically all I have to say about that. At this point, I will ask, are there any other questions or comments? No, great. Can I get a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.